And we are live, episode 4 of the Bunker Bash. What's up? My name is Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author, former F-18 fighter pilot, 7-figure advisor, and your host in the bunker as we get better during this time of national and international crisis. All right, so on today's show, we're going to talk about how to get media. A whole bunch of my clients right now are out there on the radio and TV sharing their expertise with the world. And today on the show, we're going to talk together about how you can get media, what happens when you get media. In other words, what do you say when you're actually on an interview? And by the way, I'm including 3 things when I talk about media: TV, radio, and podcasts. And I've done all 3 of those, ABC kind of TV, lots of radio shows, and a ton of podcasts. And so we'll talk about what to say when you're on there. And there are 2 different formats, by the way. There's more than 2, but 2 main formats in media: short form and long form. We'll discuss what that means in a second, how to develop a great media hook, and then at the end of your media interview, how to get people to take action and go to your website, to go buy a book, and to engage further with your content. Before I move into the beginning topic today, by the way, this is really important what I wrote on the board here today. The truth will set you free. And I'm going to make what I consider a shocking statement. In fact, it's so shocking that I probably have to qualify it in a moment so that I don't, get kicked off all of the social media platforms. And the statement goes like this: you're being lied to by the truth. Or better, you're being lied to with the truth. I'll explain what that means in just a second. And by the way, I've got a whole bunch of friends online on chat right now. So I want to just tell you, as you're joining us today, 2 things. First of all, on the right-hand side or below you, inside of the chat on your social media platform that you're watching this on, please say hello. Tell me who you are, what you do, and where you're from, and how you're doing these days in the bunker. At the same time, it would be awesome if you would click, there's a button right below you that says like, comment, and share. The social media platforms prioritize posts based on interaction. And so you just clicking that button actually helps put this post in front of more people. You commenting definitely helps, and you sharing helps the most. So if you've appreciated this content, which is totally free, shoot, I don't even have affiliate links flying up there. I'd love it if you would just be willing to just share, like, comment, and post. And by the way, I want to say hello to some of my friends showing up in chat. I want to say hello to somebody that I have not seen for a long time. Paul Hummer was my math teacher at Haverford School in Pennsylvania, baby. Turning 78 in July, doing well. If memory serves me, I have 4 kids. That's exactly right. Good job. I'm going to talk about my awesome teacher in just a second. Delisa, what's up? Saying hello to everybody. Hey, Dennis. Hello from Drizzly, Oregon. By the way, it rained here hard last night, woke me up. Yes, cold and wet. When is it not cold and wet in Oregon? By the way, one of my favorite states in the world. Ron Coder, my man. Ron and Kathy, president accounted for. Robin Roberts, happy day to you too. What's up, Barbara Hales? I just saw Barbara at an event last week. I'm going to tell you about the travel to that event in just a second. Dr. Wendy Lee, good morning from Port. What's the deal with the port? Everybody checking in from Portland. Rainy, cloudy, and focus. By the way, I should have pulled this picture up. Maybe I will while we're doing our interview. This morning I was working out, doing my kettlebells and my yoga like I told you I was supposed to do. And I looked over my left-hand shoulder. It was during some contorted stretch thing that I was doing. And there was this beautiful rainbow. I'm talking all the way from the ground, all the way into the clouds, Lucky Charms kind of rainbow. And, magically delicious. And I just thought, that's such a beautiful sign in the midst of chaos. You remember that rainbow comes from a story a long time ago where God made some promises to his people. Those promises was that he was going to treat them right. Hey, what's up, Lori Polyp? Welcome, welcome. Gizzy from Germany. By the way, thanks, Gizzy, for sharing and liking. I was told by a very close friend of mine that I pronounced your book improperly. It's not Tao, it's Tao. What's up, Bob Moore? My man. Good to see you, buddy. Mike Toy, hello from Houston. John Teague from the UK. What's up, buddy? Lori Polyp, It's snowing in Western Mass. Why am I not surprised? Hello, Alex. Arg. So we did last weekend. We had a event in Dallas, and normally you see me do this thing where I say "hoorah" with the folks who are listening. It was a pirate themed event, and I actually dressed up like a pirate, full up Captain Hook uniform. Maybe I'll share that picture with you this week. So, or maybe not. So instead of saying "hoorah," we said "arg." Sunny and blue skies and near the Baltic Sea. Yeah. What's up, Aaron? Estate planning attorney from Dallas. My man. Good to see you. All right. Say hello, everybody. If you haven't jumped into chat, say hello, jump in. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do. And I appreciate everybody for jumping in on social. Like, share, and comment. Now, let's talk about what's happening right now in our world. And as you know, I mentioned last week, I'm not really ready to weigh in fully with a set of opinions, because the truth is my set of opinions has not been fully formed. But when it comes to this epidemic, this pandemic that's facing the world right now, I am very interested in how information is being communicated. As some of you know, that's kind of a big thing for me, is understanding how information is communicated. And I have a course, a full course, full disclosure, called The Secret Weapon. Some of you have that course. And it's a primer or a deep primer on effective communication. And so what I want to do for a minute is I want to go into how some things are being communicated. And hopefully it'll help you see some other things that may be communicated, because the truth is you can use the truth to communicate something that's technically misleading. And so on the board, I've got "The Truth Will Set You Free." I said to you earlier in today's show that you are being lied to with the truth. Now, let me explain what I mean by that in just a second. I'm actually going to pull up my screen here, and I want you to take a look at this. Where am I? Hang on a second. This website that I have. Here it is. All right, here we go. So this is my Twitter feed that you're looking at, and this is actually my Twitter feed from about a week and a half ago. So I went to an event in Dallas. It was the last event that I traveled to, and I was going through the airport. This scare was really kind of hitting the United States, and people had slowed down their travel, and the events were starting to get canceled. This is right about when the sports events started getting canceled. South by Southwest started getting canceled. And I took a picture of this airport terminal. You can see right here, there's basically an airport terminal with nothing in it. Now, when I go to the airport, I don't sit down at the terminal. I almost never do that. Usually I walk. And so I'll get to the airport, check my bags, go through security, and say my flight's boarding in 40 minutes. What I'll do is I will just walk the entire airport, because I just might as well, you're there anyway, you might as well get a little bit of movement in. And so I was walking the San Diego airport, and then I came across a gate, and so I took a picture of this gate, and I went, wow, that gate's really empty. And about 20 minutes later, I got to my gate, and that gate was full. Now I want you to think about this for a second. Right here, boom. This one here, full. This one here, empty. This one here, full. Taken within 20 minutes of each other. So now I'm here to tell you that if I wanted to push a certain narrative using the truth, by the way, those were two gates at San Diego Airport. By the way, this one happened to be closed. This one hasn't had airplanes in it for about a year. Okay, it's just a gate that US Air used to use, and now US Air doesn't use it, so it's perpetually empty. This is a gate that's perpetually full because that's American Airlines. And my point here is I wrote two pictures I took at the airport this morning. I said on Twitter, if I wanted to be misleading in either direction, I could choose the one I wanted to use and have proof. Just a reminder to filter the news using your brain and to make your own decisions. Okay, and so I want you to look at this chart right here with the same thought pattern. Okay, so now remember what I said to you is that you are being lied to with the truth, right? You're being lied to with the truth. Well, look at this right here. This is the total number of cases. And by the way, the data that I'm showing you is not accurate right now. I'm showing this as an example of a chart that you have seen this week. Look at the number of cases. Take off. That's freaking scary, isn't it? You're like, my goodness, wait a second, what's happening in our world? This thing is taking off. Well, here's the thing, and this is actually really important. This chart will never not go up. This chart is the number of cases chart. This chart shows you the number of cases that are being diagnosed of this thing. This chart will always go because this chart is tracking simply the number of total cases. I want to show you a different chart. This is a chart. Again, I'm not attributing any truth to this. I'm just showing you a chart. This is the total number of new cases per week in China. This is the total of new cases per week in South Korea. And what you'll see, interestingly, is up and down, right? Up and down, because as measures are taken or as the virus moves into its greater distance, things actually start to come down. Okay, and so if you overlay both of these, you'll see up and down, up. Now, the reason that I put that on there is I want you to, when you read the news, what I want you to do is ask a question, and we're going to get to the news in a second because we're talking about you doing media, but I want you to ask a question, and the question is, what would it be if it was the opposite, right? So sometimes I read a news article and sometimes you get involved in news articles because you're kind of behind the person there. So let's say you're like a hardcore Republican, or let's say you're like a hardcore Democrat. Well, if you're a hardcore Republican, you read a damaging article about, for example, Joe Biden, you'll be like, yeah, that's true because this is what my camp believes. Or if you're like a hardcore Democrat, you read something about the president, you're like, yeah, of course it's true, right? But the fact is, all of the true things are being used and manipulated to lead you in a certain direction. And so sometimes what I'll ask myself is, what would it be like if the opposite was true? Like, what if that's not true about him? Or what if that's not true about him? Or what if what you're being shown is not necessarily true? All I want you to do as you're reading the media this week is take a step back and ask yourself, what if it wasn't true? Okay? And by the way, as we get closer to the end of this thing, we'll start to know a little bit more about what's true. About a year or two from now, we'll start to really know more about what's true. And about 10 years from now, we'll start to know really, really more about what's true. And never will we know everything that's true. Okay? All right. So I'm going to jump into a couple comments real quick, and then we're going to start talking quickly. Oh, bam. This is awesome. Tau with T is proper German. Oh, man. I got to get to use that right back. Okay, so that was really good. Jay Woolman says, Gar. What's up, Deepak from Houston, my man? Jim House says, hello. Joseph says, you go, Ed Rush. What's up, Joseph? Old Vietnam vet. Young Vietnam vet. That's what I'm talking about. So Aubrey says the gate example is brilliant. It's what the media uses to scare. Yeah, and by the way, to be a little critical of the media, but it's not something that any of us are new at understanding. The media is making a lot of money off of this right now. I mean, everyone's sitting at home watching the news. This is the reason why I said to you, look at the news like one time a day, okay? And so, yes, there is a money-making venture to be had in fear and anger. And for the last 5 years, they've been in the anger business. And for the last, 4 months, they've been in the fear business. So just remember that, okay? Jim says, I help discerning entrepreneurs and professionals, athletes create high quality books. What's up, my man? Neil, and there is the spike when they roll out testing and lets more people have access. In New York, we have no tests, and we did more testing per capita than Korea, so numbers. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is interesting. Evan, what's up, man? From Chicago. Thanks for the message. This is another interesting point about testing, and then we'll get into the media topic. I don't think, this is just my opinion, and I told you I'll tell you more about my opinion later on. I don't think total number of cases is the right metric to track this. And currently, by the way, this is how it's being tracked. Total number of cases. The problem with total number of cases is you don't have first of all, it's what we talked about last week, understanding fully the denominator, which is total number of cases. And so I was thinking this morning, and I was like, what's probably a better number? Well, close to a better number is actually the number of deaths. Okay, now I'm going to get morbid for just a second, but the fact is, last week, a certain number of people in America were going to die, no matter what. And next week, a certain number of Americans were going to die. It's just the way it is. And I don't know if you've seen the movie, the Mr. Rogers movie, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. My family and I watched that last night, and he said, death is mentionable. And because it's mentionable, it's manageable. Like, it's just phenomenal line, right? And so we can talk about it for a second. There's a certain number of people that were, okay? And so I actually think a better metric would be to look at the number of overall healthy people, not diagnosed with anything else, not having COPD or pneumonia or severe asthma, healthy people who've passed away. That right there is an interesting metric, and I have not seen that yet. All right, more to come for that. Jim House says, truth. Barbara says, Tito's vodka is now taking alcohol from its distill. I don't know if that's good or bad. So is Anheuser-Busch. Great. So now we have hand sanitizer that smells like Budweiser. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Let me see if I got this. I'm going to introduce you in a second to my media guy. He is by far the smartest person I know on planet Earth when it comes to media. Now, Josh Delano is in Texas, and he is with his family doing Texas things, which means he's almost completely off the grid. But I did convince him to jump onto the show with us. And so, Josh, let me see if, first of all, I just want to get a sound check. I've got him coming in via phone. But can you hear me okay? How are you checking?
Yeah, man, I can hear you.
All right, there's my buddy right there. So, Delisa, if you would let me know how the sound is coming through, I just want to make sure that we're hearing Josh the way that we want to hear him. All right, buddy, let me do a full introduction on Josh. So I was introduced to Josh about 2.5 years ago from a mutual friend, a guy who I would consider one of the biggest Washington insiders that I know. And I just said, hey, look, I'm trying to start a movement here. We're trying to do great things in the country. Who do you know that's got a good angle at getting on? Thank you, Mojo Mindset. Appreciate it. Who can get me on good media. And immediately I got an introduction to Josh. Immediately we hit it off. Really enjoyed just kind of talking to each other and sharing ideas. And I lost count. I ran out of fingers and toes and count the number of media outlets Josh has booked me on. It's probably nearing 50, maybe higher than that. The way Josh works as a consultant, most media consultants, by the way, will charge you a monthly retainer to basically put you on media. The problem with that model is there's really no incentive for them to actually get you on. The way that Josh has at least worked with me and the clients that I referred him to is you actually pay Josh based on the number of media on the actual. So if you get on the radio once, you pay for that, and it's not even that much. You get on TV, you pay for that, and so you only end up engaging with Josh financially if it works. Okay. And so we got to talking a little bit, and I thought, there's a lot of my clients that I've been sending to Josh recently, because the truth is the media is looking for people like you in whatever expertise. So let's say, for example, you're a doctor. Well, the media is looking for you. Let's say, for example, you're in fitness and you help people get their bodies in shape. Well, that's a topic the media is interested in now because more time people at home. Let's say you help people build online businesses. Well, that's a topic people are interested in. Let's say you can help people stream online like we're doing right now. Well, that's a topic that people are interested in. Let's say you're in accounting or bookkeeping. That's a topic that the media is interested in. And so, Josh, just do a quick introduction to any of the bio that I might have missed, and then let's get into chatting about how we can do some media together.
Yeah, basically, you have to basically be the message. Whatever is trending in the news media right now,
1, 2. You guys got me now?
Yep.
All right, we are back. Here come the new batteries. Just think that here's the deal. I started talking about like, tracking cases and like maybe the media isn't reporting this thing right, and all of a sudden everything goes. I don't know. You figure it out. All right, so we're back. So I'm sorry. That's the second time in 4 shows. I can tell you that will not happen again as long as the NSA doesn't cut into our stuff. All right, Josh, take us back to the beginning. Josh was just telling a little bit about his background. So just take us to the beginning. Talk a little bit of how you got into media, and then we'll get into some of the deeper things, including how to get a hook, how to make a call to action, what media people are looking for. Just start there.
Yeah, basically, I've worked in Congress and lots of political campaigns, and worked for a bunch of groups. Doing some media consulting, some media production, and basically, I just built a Rolodex of contacts. And eventually, after doing some political consulting work, I figured that this was the best bang for the buck for me to use my time. This is the best expertise that I have. And my business model is much different for the most part, although I do work on retainer sometimes when clients want it. For the most part, a lot of people don't do PR the way that I do. They don't do media booking the way that I do, as far as on a, kill what you eat, cost per booking basis. So that is very appetizing to a lot of people out there. Whether, my clients range from politicians to PACs to nonprofits to authors to CEOs, doctors, lawyers, etc. So anybody who wants to be on TV or radio or podcast that is an expert in something, that's a commodity, and shows want that.
So right now, what are the media outlets looking for in terms of content? You've got radio and TV and podcast. Incidentally, all 3 of those. What are people looking for?
Most people are looking for doctors and healthcare professionals to, some networks, like I was talking about earlier, want to just push a certain narrative. And then some networks want to cut through all of that, and they want to actually get some facts rather than just the fear-mongering, which, hey, if it bleeds, it leads. That sells. And, right now it's selling a lot of toilet paper and bottled water and other things that consumers are running out and packing their pantries with. So, it just depends. And then there's also, they want government experts, logistics experts, people that are political experts on, how is your government, either local, state, or federal, doing this as far as responding to this, good or bad? And what do you think can be done better? So, it's pretty practical, but some of it is straight up entertainment. And it's built in there to scare you, which is what probably 70% of the media is doing right now.
Interesting. So what's a good, let's start with this. When you're booking, and let's talk about it big picture and not just in the last 2 weeks. When you're booking somebody onto media, we talk about a hook, but give me some examples of the kind of things that people need to come, or that they should come to you with, so that a media person would be more interested in booking that person.
Well, some of the basics are your headshot, your bio, and, if you're going to be trying to play in the media sphere, you need to have a Twitter account. Facebook is for the masses, Instagram is for the masses, Twitter is for the media. So it's who are you pointing at? Who are you going after? Who are you trying to hook? And, I think more along what you're talking about is, how can you become the news? How can you be an expert? So if you have an op-ed or something that addresses an issue in the news cycle, something that is trending on Twitter, Google, Facebook, Washington Post, New York Times, Drudge Report, those things drive the news cycle. So if you can either jump on one of those things and either lend something provocative to it, or you can make your own news cycle by either becoming the news or, contradicting something that is trending, that can grab a lot of eyeballs, which is what most people are after. Yeah.
So one strategy is to go look at the news. Go through your news feed. I told everyone a couple of shows ago about Axios, which is a website that I use. scroll through 10 or 20 articles, and then try to figure out what's your spin on one of those articles or on the topics that might be trending. Does it sound about right?
Yeah. I mean, because most of the spin or the perspective is coming from a Washington, D.C. or a New York perspective. So if you are lending something that is unique to that same story that nobody's talking about, that's one way to spin off of that topic and get yourself into the news cycle. And if you are not if your name isn't Kardashian or Trump, it is hard to break into the news cycle with the bigs. But, you can get on a lot of middle market shows, local shows. And then once you build a name for yourself there, once you have a body of work, you can begin getting booked on things like the Lars Larson show or Fox News or with Ed Rush.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So I go back to when we got together 2.5 years ago. I told you this when we got on the phone. I said, look, I want to be on major TV shows. Like I was just on, as you know, I was just on my ABC affiliate here. I'm like, I want to be on TV. But I said, hey, Josh, I don't know what I don't know right now. And I'd like to just work on this for a little while. And so the first show Josh got me on was a small talk show in Atlanta. It was a radio show, so it was being broadcast like an actual radio network. And the second show he got me on was a show called Voices of Montana. And I kind of made a joke later on about that because I think the Voices of Montana was me and the host. I think he and I were the Voices of Montana. And that's not even totally true because they opened the lines up to call in, and all of a sudden I had like 5 truckers all in a row. So I thought, well, I guess the Voices of Montana, that just to drive through, the guys are listening on the way through. But my point is, it was in an environment where truthfully, I could have made any mistake in the book and it would have been okay. It wasn't like I was being broadcast on Fox News or CNN where a slip and you've destroyed your brand forever. It was okay. And I got to practice, frankly, fielding some questions in a short format. So let me just do this really quickly, Josh, and then we'll talk about taking some questions. There's more than 2 formats, but the 2 main formats to consider and think about are called short form and long form. What Josh and I are doing right now is a long form approach to an interview. We're going to be on here. We've already been on for about 8 minutes. We're going to keep on for probably about another 10 minutes. It's a longer discussion of a deeper topic. Most media that you're going to get on, Josh, if I'm right, they've got typically about 7-minute windows. Is that about right? They usually go 7 minutes.
7 or 8, yeah.
So they have about 7 minutes in between commercial breaks. And that 7 minutes is what you're going to get booked on. And that 7 minutes doesn't even mean that it's all you. They're going to come back. They're going to react to some news thing that they just mentioned. Then you're going to hear them click your microphone on. And then they're going to introduce you, which is going to take another 30 seconds. We're going to talk about the intro in just a second. And then they're going to go to you. And when they ask you a question, like what I just did is about 2 minutes of me talking. You can't do that on a radio show. You need to be able to get in, answer the question, and then end the question so that the host can react to it. So Josh, talk about short form quickly, and then we'll jump into the longer form stuff.
Well, with short form, you need to be able to basically speak in 30-second sound bites because it's so congested that you have to be able to have banter back and forth with the host. And some shows, community shows, local shows, will take callers as well. So you need to be able to interact quickly with those people. Nobody wants to hear you filibuster. This is entertainment. This is information. But you need to be able to basically put your answers in 30-second sound bites so that you can go back and forth with the host and offer an interesting dialogue.
And one of the things that I started to do, and I don't know if this is like necessarily a technique that you teach, but I started making it really clear when I was done. So I would answer, for example, I would go, look, I raise my right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I spent the first 20 years of my career fighting against enemies foreign, and I'm spending the next 20 years fighting against enemies domestic because I think that's the right thing to do. then I would stop. And my point is, I would always try to give the host a heads up that I was about to end whenever I was just about to say, right?
Yeah.
Do you teach your folks that?
Yeah, I try to. I mean, you're a unique case. You just kind of got it. But most people do not. You need to be able to. There can be a pregnant pause in the way that you say something, and you kind of need to be able to dial down as you are speaking to get to the end point. So that invites the host or whoever to answer back. That's really good. And then kind of what you said is a little bit provocative. It invokes a feeling in any American, So that's another important thing to do, is to be able to say something that is provocative and that is thought-provoking or emotion-provoking.
Yeah. Important. And another one too, just little things. So for example, like, let me just put it this way. I'm not a socialist in any way, shape, or form. And California kind of is. And so what I used to do when I would get on radio shows, especially radio shows that were not in California, is they would go, "Hey, welcome to the show, Ed Rush." And I'd go, "Hey guys, really glad to be on here. I'm calling in from the Socialist Republic of California, and I'm ready to rock and roll." Yeah. And that's it. I would just say that one thing, and then when the host, I would say that one thing, and the host would always laugh, and then they would make some funny comment, and we are off and running. And oftentimes, and this doesn't happen all that often, but oftentimes, if you have a host that's maybe a little, they want to kind of get into an argument with you, a little humor right in the beginning will ease all of that, and now you're friends for forever. So, thoughts on that?
Yeah, you set the tone.
Yeah, so setting the tone. By the way, another one, and then Josh, I want to ask you about. Well, let's get into the long form real quick, and then I want to ask you about just the CTA part, and then we'll begin to wrap up our interview. But the other one is, if you have potentially somebody. So there were people that I would get on with occasionally whose philosophies I might disagree with. One of the strategies I would use there is I would get on and tell them almost immediately something I read from them that I did agree with. Just to start the interview with something that we're on the same page, and a little research can help, and just say, "Hey, John, listen, I was just reading your article on this, and I think this is really brilliant what you said about this, and here's why." That way, at the very least, the next 2 minutes isn't going to be competitive. And then you open up the window at least for some agreement. What thoughts on that?
Yeah, that kind of lends to the whole Dale Carnegie thing of the sweetest sound in anyone's ears is their own name, or you telling someone how brilliant they are. So you can get the other guest to put their guard down a little bit if you can find a little common ground, and it'll make the conversation a little less combative if that's what you want, and if that's what the show wants. And you may want to go the opposite direction and come right out of the gates and just hammer them. So it's all up to you and what kind of interview you want to have. A lot of these interviews with differing sides, they do have a panel where there is somebody on the right or the left, or the small government versus big government, or innovation versus conformity, or whatever the whatever the talking point is for that segment.
So let's go to this last little bit here, and then what I'm going to do is open up for you to ask Josh questions. So whether on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, which is primarily where we're streaming right now, place your questions right into the chat or the comment stream, and I'll do my best over the next few minutes. We've got maybe 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes with Josh after this next question for you to get your own questions asked. So now's the time to do that, and I'll make sure that to get you in, assuming that we have time. Okay, so the last question I have for you, Josh, well, the last question prepared, I've got another one after this, I think, is a CTA, or a call to action. It's been my experience that basically every radio show I've been on, they've mentioned something for me at the end related to a place people can go to. And about half of the TV shows that I went on had an opportunity for people to take action afterwards. Any thoughts on a call to action for anyone, or what happens at the end when people get sent to a website or something?
Yeah, whatever it is that you are selling, or whatever it is that you are the brand, you are the message. So while you may not be able to come on and just basically do a commercial because that's boring, you are there as an expert. So you're going to send someone to a website, your name, your company, your brand, your Twitter account, whatever it is that you want to be able to build that brand, build a following, so that in the future, whenever you do get booked on media, you can tease that media hit and get people to tune in and want to listen to you, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, etc. So, but yeah, that call to action is, basically getting people to follow to where you are after and or before the interview if you are appropriately introduced and or summed up at the end of the interview, so that you have somewhere to send people to buy your book, to check out your company, look at your research, invest in your startup, whatever it may be. You are a brand, you are the message, and you need to have something to send people to at the end of interviews, so that they can follow you and keep up with you, and you build a brand, build a following.
So, and I'll talk, by the way, as we get towards the end, we have some questions that are going to be coming in here. So, by the way, if you have questions for Josh, now's the time to put it on. I've got just a couple more minutes with him. Any questions, Josh, on media that I should have asked you that I didn't? Any other thoughts for our folks as we're kind of dialing this in?
I think it's good to manage expectations, and you need to cut your teeth on, like you were talking about earlier. It's not a bad thing to get on podcasts or local television networks. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to build a media reel for yourself so that you can begin to market yourself. This is a job. It's not just all about vanity. You're basically building something. If you want to be in the media, you need to be building towards, your brand, your company, your personality. So I think it's important to realize this is work. I tweet out and post about people that are going to be doing TV and radio as to my clients. But I also encourage them to do the same thing, because if you replicate the efforts, it goes a lot further. The ripple effect is a lot farther. You can do things like paid ads on Facebook and things like that, but the organic, if you and a bunch of other people all tweet and retweet each other, that goes pretty far, and it's a good strategy.
So I've got one question I got in. Actually, I just got the second one. Josh, you got a minute or two for some questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So the first one is from a very good friend of mine. Actually, my so big that I have to move my head up. Jim House says there's so many parents with kids at home that are constantly underfoot. So I've gotten the nudge to step out with some what he calls resetology and do some local media. So a little background on Jim. Jim is a former high school principal who developed some strategies for being able to take emotion quickly out of a conversation. He put that into a book that he calls Resetology. Since then, he's actually become a book publisher. But if you are Jim, and by the way, everybody as you're listening, I'm going to give you Josh's contact information in just a minute, so that if you want to hire him, because if you want to get on media, you should just hire him. But give Jim some thoughts as to what he could do right now with that as a media topic.
Well, I think you need to basically create some Google alerts for yourself and look at related hashtags on Twitter, and then of course get a good relationship with your local TV networks and radio show hosts, and be that person that they can go to anytime something is in the news. And if they don't realize that you are the go-to expert, email them as soon as you see something. That's basically all I do. I have relationships with all these kind of people, producers, hosts, bookers, and I email them, text them, Facebook message them, tweet it, direct message them, etc. Any way that I usually get in contact with them, that's how I get in contact with them. So you're basically you need to begin pitching yourself to your local sphere of influence. So that you can do. That's what I kind of tell all the people. If you're from New Orleans, I really don't need to be booking you on New Orleans media. You should own that already. You should have the monopoly on that already. So that's what I would tell you to do, is to find out who your local radio show hosts are, who your local news stations are, and get a relationship, go to mixers or whatever it is, they do, and meet those people and get a relationship with those folks. That's what all business is about, is relationships. It's a lot easier for me to get a job or a client or an in with somebody that I know than just reaching out cold to someone.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is an interesting, just think about this for a second. So when I was on ABC, the local channel here, I was sitting there with the producer in the morning. It was like 5:30 or 6 in the morning when we were sitting there talking to each other. And I said, how many shows do you have? And they said, well, we have 5 shows in the morning. 5 shows in the morning. 5 half-hour shows. And then they have another like 4 midday. And then they have another 5 at night. And that producer, her job is to fill 30 minutes, well, 22 minutes, but really fill the entire time with something interesting for whoever's at home.
Yeah.
Same for the folks on radio. You got a guy here in San Diego, for example, Josh, you booked me with Brett Barnable, right? Winterval, sorry. Brett Winterval. Sorry, Brett. So Brett's on for 3 hours in San Diego, minus traffic breaks, minus news breaks, minus commercial breaks. It's still probably about 2 hours of content every single day. That's 7 minutes. That's 6 sessions, 6 blocks every single hour. That's 18 blocks. They have to fill with something interesting or they're not on the air anymore. So they need you, okay? The thing about it though is you can't jump on and be like, hey, I got this book I want to promote. Can you promote my book? You have to get in there with something that's interesting to them. And like, for example, Jim right now, parents are at home. Kids are at home. Perfect. Because a lot of these people are tired of talking about how many people are dying. So I know I kind of just jumped in and started doing the question, but what the heck? This is the conversation more than an interview anyway. But if you have a topic, remember you're solving their problem. Now back to something that Josh said about Twitter. And Josh, I'm going to ask you your contact in a second, and then I'm going to let you go because I know you need to go like back to your bunker and reload or whatever you're going to. So Twitter, I didn't pay any attention to Twitter at all because I think Twitter is worthless for business. And so,
it is.
So my Facebook had 180,000 people. My Instagram had 80,000 people. My Twitter, no joke, had 250 people. My Twitter now I'm closing in, I think, on 5,000. But the reason why is because of media. All of the media people are on Twitter. So if you're interested in connecting to a media person, is that the place to go?
Yeah, I would say that's the first and foremost place to go. And look, you can call it stalking or whatever, but I mean, if you're trying to get on a TV show or a radio show, take that same email that you're about to email them, copy and paste it into Twitter, and reach out to them via DM. Or if it's appropriate and it's not disclosing too much personal information, you can just tweet them, right there live on Twitter, and see if they'll get back to you. So it's all about contacts and reaching out to people. The media is on Twitter. Like you said, I've been in campaigns and nonprofits and lobbying and other stuff. Twitter does not work for fundraising or business. It just doesn't. It doesn't work. That's Facebook and Instagram. If you want to build customers, that's where to go. But Twitter is where to interact with the media world. And not only should you be following all of the people on Twitter in the media world that you want to talk to, but you should also follow everyone in your sphere of influence, your competitors, people who are interested in what you're in. Like right now, in the same realm of what you're talking about with your buddy with his book, people want to talk about homeschooling right now because whether or not they like to or want to or that's ideal for them, now you're basically all homeschooling your kids. And that's something that people have begun talking about, whereas in the past, nobody wants to let homeschoolers on TV or radio because,
they think they're weird.
On TV, they think you're weird and you're the competition, and they don't want that model because we want to be able to justify a state of federal jobs program, which is what public school is, sadly.
Did you say federal jobs program?
Yeah, a state of federal jobs program.
Yeah, I mean, homeschooling, but we homeschool our kids. And so that's why I'm laughing about it. homeschooling just got really popular. All of a sudden, it turned into not weird anymore. And all the parents on social media right now are like, oh my gosh, I've been home with my kids for a whole week. I'm like, hey man, welcome to my world, baby. I got people pulling at my pants when I go to get lunch. So anyway, all right. So Josh, so tell everyone, you tell them how to contact. So you tell them where to contact you, and I'll tell them how to contact you. Tell them where.
All right, you can reach out to me on Twitter or Facebook. You can direct message me, tweet me, inbox me on Facebook Messenger. Illinois Strategies is the name of my company, and feel free to give me my 3-2 number or my email address, Ed.
All right, cool.
So they can get in contact with me directly.
Delisa, if you can find Illinois Strategies on Twitter, just send that, pop that link right into the chat for me. That would be awesome. Josh, any last minute stuff? I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple more media things when you jump off, just for teaching purposes. But anything else before I let you go?
No, just remember this is work. If you want to hire me, I can do it for you. But you should definitely dominate your local market and make sure you know what you're talking about and how to be a good and memorable guest. That's what it's mainly about. Is you want to be liked and you want to be invited back. You want to be the go-to guy, the expert for who they want to be on their show whenever they need that content for that news item when it is in the news. Cool.
Josh Dillon, everybody, say hello in chat and thank Josh. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon. And I got an idea for a media push for us next week, by the way. So I will hit you up on that. I know you're interested. So talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you.
All right, man. God bless. Take care, y'all.
See you, man.
Bye-bye.
So Josh Dillon, everybody. And by the way, I'm not going to put his email into the chat just because I don't want him to get the spam bots to pick that up. But if you email me, I will send you his email as well. Thank you, Delisa. That's Josh's LinkedIn. There's a link to that inside of the YouTube chat, and then I will find his Twitter and we'll put that in there as well. So if you're interested in getting media, contact Josh. He will help you, and depending on the niche and the topic, he can help you a lot. And I can tell you that when things happen militarily, I get really busy. But right now, I'm working on maybe putting something together for next week about business, because everybody's doing business from home, and I want to talk a little bit about live streaming. Okay, so. Denise, good question. Thank you, Denise. I'm going to answer this, Denise, in give me about 2.5 minutes to do this really quickly, because I want to cover a couple other media things really quickly before we wrap it up. And by the way, I've got about 9 minutes or so. So if you want to ask any of your questions, now would be a really good time to do it. Denise, I will answer that. And by the way, Denise sent me an amazing YouTube video of her TED Talk, which is awesome. Okay. So thank you for sending me that. That was incredibly nice. And by the way, Josh just sent me his phone number too. So if you're interested in connecting with him, you can do that as well. All right. So 2 things. First of all, I want to talk a little bit more about the call to action because there was a lesson that I learned early in media that was really important, and it will help you with everything. It'll help you with media, but it will really help you with doing podcasts. If you're doing podcasts, it'll really help you with anything else that you're doing online. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen one more time, and I want to show you what I did with this. I'm going to take you back. It's going to look like I'm taking you to this graph again, but I don't want to talk about that anymore. If you go to, for example, edrush.com, okay, and then if you took my website right here and you went to, by the way, if you haven't done this, go to the page, side note, put your name and email. If you're not on, because I send stuff out to the email list that you don't get if you're not on that list. So don't miss it. And by the way, if you haven't gotten emails from me, some reason like Gmail, sticking them in your spam folder, go subscribe again. All right. So if I go to edrush.com/book, see that URL that I just typed in there? This is going to take you to an opt-in page. This page is one that I use for media. Okay. So if you go to this page, you'll see there's a button here that says go get the #1 best-selling book. That's the book over on Amazon. And then this button right here takes people to a page where they can opt in and get a whole bunch of free trainings. And by the way, if you're interested in the free stuff, you're welcome to go to edrush.com/book. But let me tell you something about that website. And this is actually like really important lesson that I learned. And to be completely transparent, it took me way, hopefully that was enough way too long to figure this out. Okay. So I was on media. Josh started getting me on all these talk shows. So I was on this like little talk show in Atlanta, and then I was on this Voices of Montana. Okay. And it was just me practicing and getting better. And then about a week after that, maybe 2 weeks after that, he's like, hey man, I'm going to try to get you on some of these other shows. And I started getting on for real shows. Like I was on this thing called Grover in the Morning, which is like the big Cleveland jock morning guy, which was a lot of fun. I had to answer some questions, or I had to avoid some questions that I didn't want to answer. I'm going to tell you how to do that in a second, Denise. But at the end of every show, I would say, because the radio folks are always going to give you an opportunity. I got to get rid of this branding because it's sitting over my head. So the radio folks will give you an opportunity to offer something at the end. And you have, by the way, make it free. The only thing you can do in 20 seconds is to give somebody a free something. But the best thing to do is to get someone to sign up for your email list. Now, the media people without any direction will probably send them to your Twitter. Okay, so without any sort of direction, people will go, to find out more about Ed, go to his Twitter. He's at EdRushPilot. Boom, they're gone. But I don't want people to go to my Twitter. I want people to go opt in on my website for something. And ideally, I'd like for them to go get a book. Okay, so I would tell them, hey, my website is www.edrush.com/book. And I was on the radio, and I would say, my website is www.edrush.com/book. And on that website, you're going to get a free training that's around my 21-day miracle book. And you'll also get a direct link to go and get the book. And it's super cheap. I make it available at the lowest cost possible. That's the way that I would typically say that. And then the host would say this. They would go, great, Ed Rush, thanks a lot. To get Ed's book, go to edrush.com. Thank you, Ed. And then I would hear my microphone go click, and then I'm gone. Okay. And they would always, and I would go, no, it's edrush.com. So like an idiot, show after show after show, go to edrush.com/book, go to edrush.com/book, go to edrush.com/book. And then they would go, if you're interested in Ed's book, go to edrush.com. Thank you, Ed. No, like it was like 8 straight times. So it shouldn't have taken me this long. But what I did was I went and registered edrushbook.com. All right. Now, when you go, I want to show you this. When you go to edrushbook.com, I'm going to go type it in. Check it out. So edrushbook.com. Watch this. Same place, right? It goes to the same place. It's the same thing. Here's the difference. The difference in this website and this website is that word is inside of the URL, and they never miss it. So when I say to get it, to go get your free training and a discounted copy of my book, go to edrushbook.com. They go, thanks, Ed. That's been great. Now go to edrushbook.com, and they never, ever mess it up, okay? So when you do a call to action, a couple little tips. First of all, I find that a book is one of the best things to give away, all right? I have another book that I give away totally for free, a free download just of a book. If you don't have a book, that's fine. You don't need the book. I'm just here to tell you that it's been my experience that a book is one of the best things to give away. The second thing is this URL has to be brain dead, drop dead, easy. If it's not easy, you got to remember, you're sitting at a computer or Here you go. Dang, come on. I'm going to switch to my other microphone. All right. How do you hear me now? How far back? Shoot, man, I was on a roll and everything. How far back did I go before I got cut off by the sound again? Anyone? Bueller? Hang on a second. Back. How far back? All right. 1, 2, 5 by 5. It's working again. All right. Tell me where. We get the message. Book address has to be easy. Yeah. Okay. Good. Dang. So Ed Rush book has to be easy. Now, what I will say, this was the golden nugget, Jay Woolwine. Tell me about it. So what I will say is to the person on the radio, I'll go, now, I'm going to give you a website that's the easiest website you'll remember. And you're going to remember this so that when you go home, you can type it into your browser. That's the phraseology that I use. I'm going to give you a website that's the easiest website to remember so that when you go home, you'll be able to type it into your browser. And when I say that, the average person goes, okay, this is something that I'm definitely going to remember. Okay. And then I go, it's edrushbook.com. All right. So my point is, yes, drop dead easy URL. That is absolutely correct. Aubrey says in here, on a second, I'm going to go back to the chat comments. You guys are awesome, by the way. Thank you for the, I'm going to tell you, this microphone will never fail ever again. Can't do it because there's going to be 100,000 people on this thing soon. And by the way, if you haven't, yes, that's right. Barry said the address has got to be easy. Denise says the book address has got to be easy. And thank you. I got you. All right. And Aubrey says nice NLP. Good. Thank you. All right. So yeah. So make it easy and then use what I just said, which is say this. Say, I'm going to give you a web address. That's the easiest website you'll ever remember. And when you get home, you'll be able to type this into your browser. Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up really quickly. I'm going to answer. Denise has a question, a media question about the questions, about getting tough questions. And then I'll take any other questions that you have and I'll run through chat really quickly. And I will not be throwing up on chat the ones that were like, you lost sound, but I'll do the other ones. All right. So Denise asked the question. Let me see if I can find it. Where are you? Here we go. Denise said, how do you stop the media from taking you down a path you don't want to be taken? All right. So let me just tell you, Denise, I'm going to alleviate hopefully any fears or concerns that you have about doing media. Just remember that when you're on a media channel, you're not on the media channel because you just got indicted by Congress. You're not on the media channel just because you just ended up in a scandal. And a lot of the media that you see, the big media, you see somebody who's getting asked questions they don't really want to answer. Like you're seeing the president's press conference and people are like, why are you calling it the China virus? Okay. It's not the questions and the dodging and all that stuff. When you're being interviewed by the media, let me explain to you what they want. The media has, remember I said there's like 3 hours and they have 7-minute segments. So they have 6 segments per hour and 18 segments to fill. What that means is they need content. What that means is that their producer decided that you would be a good person to be on their show. What that means is that media person probably went to your website, but they probably went there, Denise, for about 13 seconds. And what that also means is they have no clue how to interview you. Don't worry about sending them questions. They're not going to ask them anyway. Do send them an introduction, a short intro, or a bio that you do want them to use. They will read the bio that you give to them. Okay? They will ask you the first question. And the first question is a little bit of a catch-all question usually to get you started down the topic. Like, for example, if it's Jim House who's on this, they'll ask, so Jim, a lot of parents are staying at home right now. What do you have to say to them? They'll ask like a big catch-all question because remember, they're not prepared for your interview. What they want is something interesting for the next 7 minutes. Okay, they don't care if you don't answer their question. You know how like in the Senate, people are like, you're dodging the question, Mr. Rush. They're not going to do that, okay? They're not going to do that with you. They're not going to go, well, Denise, you didn't answer the question because they don't care. What they want is interesting. Okay, so occasionally I will get asked a question on a media outlet that I don't particularly feel like answering. And the truth is, it's a little harder for me because I'm trying to start a political movement, right? that changes our country. And so I do get some questions about some things that I'm not super interested in talking about just yet. All right. And when I get asked that question, is really simple. I'm going to give you a line to use. Okay. Say, well, the real question is, right? So I'll say something like that. They'll say, so Ed, what do you think about this? And I'll go, shoot, the real question is, what are we going to do with, and then I'll go, and I'll just take the conversation over here to the place that I want to talk about it. And it's been my experience in a lot of media interviews, having done a lot of media interviews, that they don't care. Now, Denise, it may be different if you're running for Senate, okay? Because maybe they will go, wait a second, you didn't answer the question about that. They might, okay? But they're not going to do it to you now, okay? So, hey, thank you for that. She says, oh, good, thanks. And so, yeah, it's not even it's not even so much deflection. It's more like you're giving them what they want. They want good, interesting content. And if you're not prepared to answer a question on something, just say the real question is, and answer the question that you want to answer. All right. So, man, today went fast. Let me tell you what I got lined up for you for the rest of the week. So tomorrow, boom, I got my friend Michael Haig. He's coming in via video, by the way, so we won't even have to do the audio. Michael Haig's coming in tomorrow, and he and I are going to riff the whole time, baby, on how to tell your story so people go, wow. We're going to talk about storytelling. We can talk about how to use it in the media. We can talk about how to use it right now. By the time we're done tomorrow, you are going to be a lot better at communicating your story in a way that people are attracted to you. The second thing Michael and I are going to do tomorrow is we're going to go behind the scenes on some of the best movies that you've seen that he worked on. And you're going to hear some Hollywood stuff that you have never heard before. Okay, so we're going to have a good time tomorrow. Later on in the week, by the way, I've got a stack of stuff. We're going to start talking about pricing, how to charge more, how to charge what you're worth. You're going to learn how to make money even now. And I have got waiting in the wings, by the way. It's soon. In fact, it may have already just happened. The Small Business Association, SBA, is opening up a ton of money right now. The percentage rate is about 3.5%, which is minuscule. And the last I heard, there's a good chance that they may allow you to not pay back anything that you pay in payroll and rent, okay? Now, do not take that as, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. I talked to my SBA guy last week, and I've got him waiting. I'm going to do an interview with an SBA lender here soon, because if you're interested, there is a lot of money that's going to be available, and there's a chance for you to get perhaps another $50,000 to $350,000 to get you over. So I got him ready to go, and I've got somebody else I'm working on right now who's a Major League Baseball manager, and another guy who's an NBA basketball coach, and another guy who was on the court when the NBA canceled all of their games. So a whole bunch of cool stuff waiting in the wings for the Bunker Bash. I just want to say thank you. I'm going to scroll through chat really quickly and just say hello. David Zetz says, dang, I'm late. Going to watch the recording, putting these in my calendar. Yes, 10 o'clock every day. By the way, the social media outlets normally loop it so you can watch the replay, but what you don't get is the interaction and get to ask your questions, and you don't get the community that we have going right here. And you never know, by the way, I might say something. Yes, SBA, Small Business Administration. What did I say? I don't know. So I don't know what I said, but I meant SBA. Okay. So, and by the way, you never know. I might say something that's so horrific to the social media giants that they might just take this down. And if they do, be on my email list, because I'm still going to do it. Okay. And I don't think they're going to take it down. But you know, who said this? Somebody said in chat, the only conspiracy theories I believe are the true ones. That's all I have to say about that. All right. I said association. It's not an association. Thank you, Bob. It's the Small Business Administration, the SBA. All right. I'm going to do this really quickly. I didn't plan on doing this, so I'm going to do 30 seconds and just tell you something. Sometime this week, I'm going to explain to you why the stock market went down after the Fed pushed through 2 stimuluses, okay? And it's going to make sense, hopefully for you, of what's going to happen financially in our country. What I can tell you is this. Oh, that's very nice. Kevin Bell. Oh, I have to say something about you, Kevin Bell. What I can tell you is this. Congress is in the middle right now of passing a $1 trillion to $1.8 trillion stimulus plan. I'll do the math for you on this. Every time $100 billion goes flying out, you can assume it's $1,000 of your money in taxes that you have to do to support that. 1.8 trillion is $18,000 of your money. Okay, I'll do the math on this later in this week. What I can tell you is what's going to happen right now is they're going to give a bunch of money to big businesses, and they're going to lend a bunch of money to businesses like ours. Okay, and I'm going to explain how to take advantage of this, because I can tell you, you as a small business owner will be paying the price for, sorry, microphone. You're going to be paying, it's supposed to be a serious point. You're going to be paying the price, but I'm going to talk to you this week about how to take advantage of it so that you can at least get some money that you're going to have to pay them later. All right. So Kevin Bell says, so good to hear you again. By the way, if you haven't followed Kevin on Facebook, he had one of the funniest posts I've ever seen. It was about how it was about his cat. All right, let me just put it that way. Robin says, I'm just going to hang out for a few minutes, by the way, in chat to just say hello, or say thank you to you in chat. So if this has been helpful for you, say hello, say thanks, and I'm going to be bailing out in just a second, but I want to say thank you to so many of you. Thanks, Ed. Robin says, I appreciate you and the amazing sharing that you're doing. You're the best. Robin, I'm just studying to be the best. John just registered his easy book domain. I love it, man. Very, very good. All right. Thank you so much. Let me see if I'm missing anybody. Yeah, that was good. I appreciate that. All right. So I will talk to you tomorrow. By the way, tomorrow, Michael Haig and I are going to be talking about storytelling, and you do not want to miss this. We're going to have a blast. All right. So come here tomorrow. Thanks, John. It was very nice of you. What you said too. Let's see. John said lots of fun. Thanks, Ed. Denise, I'm here for sure every day. I love it, man. Thank you for sending that wonderful email, by the way. You have an amazing story. Your sound guy. Oh, Jim said, your sound guy is quick. We didn't hear the mic smack. The truth is, Jim, this isn't connected. This is my backup for this other thing. All right, Dennis, my man. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And by the way, if you're an Ultimate Speaker registrant, tomorrow at 1, we're doing our first online training. So if you're not registered for the Ultimate Speaker, which is now in June, now would be a really great time to do it. Send me an email at coaching@edrush.com, and I'll make sure my team gets you the best deal, okay? Mike Toy, what's up, man? He says, thanks. Jim says, smiley face. All right, listen, thank you so much. We're just a little over an hour, so I want to jump off. I will see you tomorrow, meaning Tuesday, 10 o'clock every single day. Weekdays, Bunker Bash. We'll talk to you soon. Stay positive. The big smile on your face. This is going to be awesome. When we come out of our bunkers in about a month or two, you're going to be better, faster, stronger, and we're going to take over the world. All right? I'll talk to you soon.